Howdy, folks. I'm Jeff Gonzalez, former Navy SEAL, president of Trident Concepts, and host of the Bulletproof Workshop, powered by AR15.com, where we discuss knowledge, skills, and ability to help bulletproof your everyday performance in whatever your field or passion. Welcome to Podcast 015. My next guest is one of the first non-Brazilians to achieve the level of black belt. He started martial arts in the 70s and settled into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu when it exploded here in the U.S. shortly after UFC 1. Very cool. Coming up through the ranks during the garage days and challenge days, which I can't wait to hear about. He's a wealth of jiu-jitsu history. He coined many commonly used terms and positions, including my favorite, combat base, which is his title for the gym. And he came up with the golden rules of grappling, which I also love, that have heavily influenced many practitioners, including myself. He's an artist, student, teacher, pioneer, and 6th-degree black belt. Please welcome to the show, Chris Haueter. Chris.
Hi. Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been, once Joey put this together, I was super excited. I started doing my homework, and it's not that I didn't know, but I started really diving deep into it. And your grasp of the history, specifically in those startup days of jiu-jitsu here in the country, in the U.S., is like you're the custodian of the history almost.
Well, I mean, in a way, yes. And as we all know, history is written by those who win, those who write it.
Yes, good point.
And I did there. It's interesting. Like the way I view it is kind of like with comic books. You have the Golden Age, the Silver Age, right? And the Bronze Age. So the Golden Age happened in Brazil.
Okay, fair enough. Yep.
I'm like the Silver Age, which I began pre-UFC, and I mark the next stage as the post-UFC age of jiu-jitsu.
I love that. That is great. Yeah. Folks, this show is sponsored by 1776 Insurance. We're talking about comprehensive firearms collection coverage. That also includes your accessories as well as knives. If you've got questions or you want to learn more, please visit 1776insurance.com.
The UFC was the event that put this on the map of the world.
Changed it big time.
And pre-UFC, a few spots in LA, Hawaii, New York, one San Francisco were the only places outside of Brazil where
it's interesting.
The art was practiced, yeah.
When I talk to people, particularly in the industry, it's like where were you for UFC 1? Where were you at? What were you doing in life? Did it impact you, kind of thing? And I was at my last duty station, and we had our Commie T had a big TV for all world events and stuff, and we just piped in the UFC. And I remember we had that was the beginning of our combatives program as well, so we were really interested in learning and watching and all this stuff. And it was just like, what just happened? What just happened that changed everything? Like, we were just looking
absolute game changer, yeah.
Big time.
Especially for early adopters.
Yes.
So, right after that, I remember, do you know Eric Saxon?
Yes.
Legend, right?
Yes.
In the SEALs?
Yes.
I met him as I was a new black belt.
You're kidding.
Yeah. And
Eric was in my buds class.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
How cool. Yeah.
He was the LPO of my buds class.
Oh, no
That's
way.
so fucking cool.
How cool, yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric, and I can't remember the other guy, they came out to L.A., and he wanted to hang out for a while. He got special orders cut, lived at my house a while.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and I would
oh, my God.
And I would pour knowledge into him, right?
Dude.
Yeah. And then he'd go back to Virginia Beach, and the one time I went back there with him, but I do call that the post-UFC phase.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which, looking back on it now, was kind of the formative stage of a world jiu-jitsu establishment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, because once I left the command, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. I still was kind of like dabbling a little bit, but I got so busy in my own field that I just I would periodically tune into like a pay-per-view event and watch it. And to watch it evolve so fast, so incredibly fast. Like we always joke about pre-GWAT, Global War on Terrorism, how things took forever to change. Yes. It was just like so like a
the
like
tactics,
a glacier.
the gear,
Yes.
everything.
It was
took
like a
forever.
glacier
Yeah,
pace.
Yep.
And you add a war, and all of a sudden things start
Yes.
happening a lot faster. And I think UFC kind of did the same thing because it was such a performance-driven event that you were discarding what didn't work and exploiting what did.
Absolutely. And you know, the interesting thing, when UFC 1 happened, I was a purple belt, a seasoned purple belt. And in some ways, like all of us then, it was like really cool and happy.
Yeah.
But in this other way, it's like, fuck, the cat's out of the bag. Right? It's
Now everybody's going to be coming.
because like pre-UFC, you couldn't pry guys out of you would have to beg them. Just
Really?
Yes, and unless you experienced it.
Yeah.
You didn't believe it was real. And pre-UFC, the culture of the martial arts at large, the peak art was the Jeet Kune Do and the offshoots
For sure.
thereof.
Yeah.
And Krav Maga is in essence an offshoot of,
I could see that.
but it's rebranded with JKD.
I like that.
In
I
a
like
lot
that.
of ways,
I
right?
like how you said that.
I mean, yes, it's got some changes.
For
It has
sure.
a few things, but ultimately it's rebranded
I like that.
with JKD.
Yeah.
And some people in our grappling / MMA community will bag on Krav Maga, which I don't.
Okay.
I call it a polishing art.
Interesting.
In other words, if you know generally how to box, but kickbox and grapple, a weekend Krav class will give you
I see
the
what you're saying.
elements you need for
Yeah.
survival fighting, right?
I like
in the
that.
street. But in any polishing art, unless you have the foundational skills,
Yeah.
which are striking, clinch, and grappling, then that stuff you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And that's the illusion that often martial arts still, because we're in an industry that is a private for-profit industry, right?
sure.
And in order to get heads in the class, you have to sell it.
That's so true.
And in my garage, I get to sell it in a way now that I much prefer, because ultimately, as you know, with all these skills, what is it? It's just doing the fundamentals over
Brilliance
and
in
over
the
again,
basics.
and loving that.
Yes.
You have to love it.
No, so true.
And we all go through a phase, some of us longer than others, where we're chasing the next gem, the next coolest move.
Oh, yeah.
The next whatever it is,
Yeah.
right?
But I was going to say, there's so many. I'm trying not to jump ahead of my plans here, but I want to ask this question.
Anytime, also, because I will ramble on.
Oh, no, I love this.
Just cut me the fuck off.
No. First of all, that's too much valuable information to cut off. But I did have a question that I was going to ask you a little later. It had to do with kind of like what you were talking about. So when you start thinking about, the evolution that you're seeing or that you started to see, where are we at today compared to back then? Are we still evolving quickly? Are we evolving more towards the sport, or are we evolving more towards the art? Where are we as an industry?
There's a great line, and I can't remember which philosopher said this or artist, but it is difficult to see a picture when you're inside of the frame.
Ooh.
You have to get that outside a perspective.
Okay.
And that's a phrase I heard in art school years ago. And so that's kind of part of my philosophical approach. But I have to be aware that I'm in that frame.
Mm.
And that as much as I think I can objectively
Yes. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't want to trick myself in thinking
I see what you're saying.
For sure, I have a grasp of where we are, right? Because earlier off the podcast, once you try to predict, you're getting yourself already...
So true. You're becoming biased of sorts. Absolutely.
And or in a line of habit, right?
Yes.
So it becomes more of you train and practice the skills, but you can't plan the fight.
Oh, yeah.
And the way I view that, because my model of instruction is I break everything down into threes. Because I believe us humans, we are trapped by the way we think in what? The binary.
Yes.
It's how we think, right and wrong,
black and white,
live and dry, black and white.
Yes.
Everything's in twos, ones and zeros. Everything we mimic, whether it's our art, our engineering, we are basically we anthropomorphize everything.
I love that.
A car has two headlights. We have two eyes. It's got a mouth and a grill. Everything we do, right? So as an artist, I'm trying my best to step outside of the frame, right? And observe this. And in the recent years, what we are now is in what I call the age of algorithmic training.
Ooh.
So in a lot of ways, we as humans, in the height of this thing, have mastered what I'm going to call the fundamentals, not only of how the grip goes here or here, does it go here? All that's kind of down, almost like we could say with a current 9mm and a 223. We've almost mastered all the grip part of this thing, right?
So true.
And the snapping in the thing mastered as a model.
Got it.
We never, on an individually, master anything. That's where we love the art, right?
Yes.
It's always, we just get a little better.
Yes.
Sometimes we go a little backwards, then we get a little better again. Yes, or a lot, right? But so let me put it this way, and again, please interrupt me.
No, I want to hear it.
And so, as an amateur anthropologist, zoologist, I try to get big picture history.
I love that.
Everything.
Yeah.
Big picture, like big history.
Yeah.
Like beginning of the universe, right? 13.8 billion years ago. Let's start there first, right?
Good place to start.
But so as martial arts evolved, and there's a speech I gave like 10 years ago when quote unquote old school was starting to come back in, because it's skinny tie, fat tie, right?
Cyclical. Everything is cyclical.
And of course, I was at the ripe age and experienced the old school, so suddenly it gave me a window.
It was cool again, yeah.
It's not as if I created it.
Yeah.
I was right place, right time, right?
I love that, yes.
And so, again, my model I view things out of is environment is stronger than will. And we think, and often, especially us who have that incredibly strong willpower, we can fall under the delusion that we create everything.
I see what you're saying.
When really what it is what our willpower gives us the choice to put ourselves in the correct training environment. And then the environment carries the individual and the team.
So like the old saying, you're a byproduct of your environment.
Yes.
Yes. And I feel like I gravitate towards certain people because I feel like that's the environment that I want to be in. Because
it's like the old line, you are an amalgam of the 5 humans you hang around most.
Yes, absolutely. And like when I get around others, and I'm probably doing this subconsciously. I'm not necessarily saying good, bad, but I just kind of realize, okay, I'm probably not going to want to do much more. Or like if I'm teaching a class and I have some students and I can quickly recognize, okay, these are students that they're still kind of not quite at that point where it really clicks for them. And it's like, how much time do I want to invest in that? How much time are they willing to invest? Are they going to stay in this environment, the teaching environment, or are they going to leave that environment and try to go do something else? And
right.
So I like that viewpoint because no matter, like, I guess we are communal creatures in general. We hang around, we were part of a tribe in the beginning.
Yep.
We have strength in our groups.
Yes.
We build upon one another. If that group of 5 that you talk about, that group of 5 are there because they're pillars in your life, and they're not destructive pillars. They're positive pillars to help build you up. Otherwise, you wouldn't probably be hanging around them.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And it's the old like. Well, it's like, okay, so the way I picture, like, historically, how martial arts evolved, right, is you have what I call the pre-war and the post-war, World War II.
Interesting.
Because World War II ushered in not only just like but GWAT ushered in a bunch of new training and tech. So did World War II at a drastical scale.
Interesting.
Before World War II, no one had what? The TV.
Oh, yeah.
After the war, almost every home now has a TV.
I see what you're saying,
Before
yeah.
World War I, no one had the radio. After the war, everybody had the radio.
I see what you're going.
Which also gave rise to the mass communication revolution in the 20s,
Yeah.
which had this phase of new experimentation. Maybe we'll hit that later on in the episode.
Okay.
But one of the greatest things for grapplers is the post-World War II invention of neoprene rubber, which not only gave us wetsuits,
Okay, fair enough.
but it gave us soft grappling surfaces so we could now, the environment changed.
I see.
So we could stay on the ground and train longer without hurting our elbows and knees. Because pre-war
Awesome.
wrestling almost ended at the grappling phase. Because you couldn't grapple as long.
Yeah.
And the pre-war mats were then constructed to handle impact.
Okay.
But not elbows and knees on it for 20, 30, 2 hours at a time.
Oh, wow.
So
God,
again,
that's so funny.
environment trumps will.
That's so cool. Actually, what's so funny is like, I think, yeah, it's like we always had like a sand pit that we did all our stuff in
Right.
because of that. It was like whenever we did any of our,
I remember this in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, the combatives.
Yeah.
We had those little pits when we'd
Combatives
go out
pits,
into the pit, and instead we'd be in the classroom, and they'd go over the stuff in the classroom, and then we'd go out in the pit, and it was a free for all of sorts. So that makes sense.
Yes.
It's so cool to see that. So that basically that invention, if you will, or development, is what allowed the community to now get focused on basically the ground level stuff.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And
World War
that
II.
caused, of course, in America and Russia, the explosion of the art of wrestling. That's where it started to become perfected. And then also, as an artist / philosopher, amateur, in which I am, I would never say pro, number one, because I don't get paid to do it.
Sure.
But you have the television movie age, which now we are art looking at ourselves. So the camera, which came in the late 1800s, changed painting and art forever. Because pre-camera, the painter's goal or sculptor's goal was to depict as most lifelike as you possibly can. To make a photograph and paint it. A Rembrandt. A Vermeer. Then came the camera, and the artist's like, fuck, now the camera.
What am I
with one
competing against
click
that
does it.
for?
Right. So now it's like, let's make an expression of let's capture the essence through the eyes of the artist. Yeah. And then it enters in the modern age of art, right?
Yeah.
And then the postmodern age, which started, World War II kind of put postmodern art and postmodern philosophy on hold.
Okay.
And I know currently, right now, there's a lot of politicization of postmodern philosophy and art.
Oh, for sure.
And that's understandable because half of them came from fucking Marxist schools, right?
Eastern.
And but when you understand the context of history, how it was, then you can grasp the wisdom and the reflection of it. And so because we are in what I think it was Baudrillard, who was the guy who basically inspired the movie The Matrix or Fight Club. One of those French postmodernists. Was it?
Oh, I have no idea, actually.
Yes. So once you start seeing ourselves on screens everywhere, and of course now we are in hyper postmodernism, where we have a screen in our face
all the time,
half of the fucking time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
So now we really are. Art imitates art, and then life imitates art, or art imitates life. Then life imitates art, Now we're bouncing it back again. And we're trapped in
this kind of like cycle.
The wilderness of mirrors.
Interesting. Ooh.
So what the postmodernists were foreseeing is what is going to be the effects on the human brain, both individually and collectively, when we enter that house of mirrors.
So I'm interested to get your take on this.
Interrupt me, please.
No. I'm interested to get your take on this. So like, I don't pay attention to runway models or runway.
I don't either.
But
you see them everywhere.
Exactly.
Because you can't not see
exactly.
them. Yeah.
And so you see, but like you see the fashion design world kind of pushing the boundaries of maybe what they consider to be art. So
That's
like
right.
back in the day, maybe art was what they thought, like a nice 3-piece suit. And now, like, I'm trying to wrap my head around how they view that as art, but that's the evolving nature of art. And then it gets kicked back.
Yeah.
The public pushes back against that and says, no, we're not buying that. So now they kind of like circle back and they.
Right.
So that's that cycle that you're talking about.
That cyclical thing of how the quote unquote masses push back against the introduction of new ideas.
Yes. I love it.
And then it's slowly adopted. And it's almost like when you go into, and I don't want to get into it too much because it turns off a lot of the audience, but when you get into political philosophy,
sure,
that is really because people misunderstand what these terms mean.
Yes.
But then what happens is words change what they mean, right?
They evolve as well.
Right. So like, let's go back to martial arts, right? We have the post-World War II, which is the larger group of them, just like in zoological analysis, we have the rise of mammals.
Okay.
And what was it, 160 million years before that? What did we have? The Cambrian explosion.
Okay.
Where suddenly there was enough divergence in life where you start having the fractalization and branches down all kinds of evolutionary pathways.
Interesting.
And most will go extinct. Like over 9 and 10, well, naturally, meaning without intelligent thought, go extinct.
Interesting.
So in one sense, we humans are these brilliant creatures who've created language, who've created an ability to observe and record our evolution.
Yeah.
Which also gives us a route to guide our evolution.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
you study history.
And that is what the American military perfected post-World War II.
Okay.
And the GWAT gave that an accelerated
big boost.
A boost, right? So, Jiu Jitsu comes to America. At first, you're wearing a white gi.
Yeah.
Karate was out, but Karate Kid was like something we saw as kids. It's fun. We laugh at that.
Yeah.
What is in? Black T-shirts, black sweatpants, clip-it knives, stick fighting.
Yeah.
All that it is the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And then here comes this just massive disruptor. But because we're in the age of screens, you couldn't get people to try it because they automatically drew the conclusion that is bullshit.
You're kidding. Wow.
Largely through vision, through the perception of our eyes.
Interesting.
We have our eyes, our ears, our nose, our skin, hair, feel. We have these things that we pick up, are things we filter them through our pattern recognition machines. We're consciously aware of less than 10% at any given time. The human brain can keep about 3 bits of information in our head at once.
Yeah, that's it. I'm good. That's taxing on me.
That's it. Yeah. I'm barely 1 now. Once you have kids, you lose 20% of your brain each fucking kid. There's all these things. So we're sitting here trying to encyclopedically learn martial arts and remember all these moves.
Yes.
And we're practicing them not in real time, real pattern with real resistance.
Yes.
Jiu Jitsu comes along and just kicks that in the ass.
So true.
Totally. And the irony is, sports like wrestling boxing were already alive, real timing, real sports. But we in our brains had categorized them off as, oh, those are sports. Because I do kung fu snake style, which is real fighting, right? So the snake oil in which martial arts had to have to sell the public was this illusion that there was the master who was unbeatable.
Yes.
He's at the top of the hierarchy.
Yes.
And this hierarchical model, which is fucking fascism.
Yeah.
There's one guy at the top who no one can beat, Master so-and-so.
Yeah.
Then there's the next rung. It's a pyramid scheme, right? And under that is all these things. So the boxing and wrestling model was much more of a God, we do this wrestling thing. We can't make any money because watching wrestling is not as fun as watching humans run around and put hoops and balls and other sports. So in order to make money, they had to make wrestling fake.
Interesting.
That's why wrestling evolved into pro wrestling, because we got to put asses in seats.
I love this.
Or we can't make any money.
Oh my God, I didn't even really think about it that way. I mean, wrestling when I was a kid, like professional wrestling was huge for me. I was like, I can remember all the like the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, and they were like, I lived in Central Texas growing up, so like that was huge. And it was like, as a kid, it was so sensationalized. Like, you couldn't wait to go and watch an event. And we had one of our neighbors, not neighbors, but like in our neighborhood, was one of those pro wrestlers that had his own setup and everything. And he'd go out there, and it was like so cool. We were like, oh, we get to meet him, and he's out there. And it took a while as a youth, as a child. It looks so real.
Yes, as did the Kung Fu movies.
Yes.
But Chuck Norris in the Octagon.
Yes.
It all looked so fucking
real.
Cool and real.
Yes.
Right? And again, this is because we are in post-modern art.
Yes.
Right? We're in that phase where life is interacting with art and art interacts with life.
Yes.
All right. So we have this evolution where wrestling also, there's real wrestling against real resistance, the actual sport.
Yes.
Then we have this entertainment wing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then we have the post-World War II. Here comes not only softer mats, but the television.
Yeah.
So real wrestling becomes a little more grappling oriented.
Okay.
And fake wrestling becomes entertainment oriented.
For sure.
Both requiring incredible athletics, right?
No doubt.
But for the audience is now loosely aware, oh, that's fake.
Yeah.
And then once the wrestlers are aware, the audience is aware, let's be in on the joke.
Yeah,
break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And let's go over the top.
Why not?
Why not?
All in.
Right?
We're all in.
So
That's brilliant. I never even thought of it that way.
So the Asian martial arts, as taught by mostly Westerners in the U.S. and Europe, are going through the similar phase, coming up in the age of movies.
Okay.
Because after the war, you have basically where in Japan that got their asses kicked fucking hard, they rebuild the culture and start to make attempts to preserve these iconic cultural things, i.e. judo. The Kodokan, I believe, began in the 1800s, but the sport of judo really started evolving after the war. And
interesting.
Almost as a reach across the aisle of peace, as America rebuilt the world, Japan and Germany.
Yeah.
Japan got to introduce their culture through
I like that.
karate and judo.
Yeah.
And then it exploded in the United States.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? Especially with kids.
Oh, I was in karate when I was a kid. I remember it
Me too.
vividly.
Loved it.
Yes.
And I distinctly remember, because I had a grandpa who was a heavyweight boxer, who he was Joe Lewis's sparring partner.
Whoa.
At a point. He hated me watching fake wrestling. And he hated the karate and all that because he knew from back when
he knew the truth.
Worked in the mines
Yeah.
and pre-thumbless gloves, and back when you would wrap your hands in cloth, and then you put a glove over the cloth, and that's the padding. And the padding was meant to break, because all combat sports, whether it's football wearing a helmet, which is a team combat sport.
Yep.
We are mimicking the hunt or war. All sports are metaphors of either hunting or war.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is why we are so primally wired to idolize our athletes.
I hadn't thought of that way.
We are primally wired.
Interesting.
And our grunts and operators.
Yeah.
We are primally wired because to survive for 60,000 years, you survive with the guy who can run hurdles and throw a javelin.
Yes.
Or grab a rock and throw a 90-mile-an-hour pitch.
Yeah.
And hit that antelope's head.
Yeah.
Because then you could chase it down.
Yeah.
And even though the antelope can outrun you, you have language and can carry water, but communicate, create an ambush.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so all of our sports, I lost my chair.
Oh, no.
Doohickey. Yeah, it's one of those little thingies.
It should be on the side.
I shrunk.
To your right, sir.
There we go.
Could you scoot up, Chris?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So, where the fuck was I at?
So we were throwing rocks at antelopes to chase them down.
So our human brains are wired to remember the great athlete because we want him on our team.
Hell yeah.
On our 12-man team.
Yeah.
We're wired to honor, remember, and idolize them over Dr. Salk, who saved countless millions of lives curing polio.
Yeah. It's interesting, too. I hadn't thought of the primordial kind of response to an athlete or a soldier and why there's that degree of idolization, but it goes back to, primordial instincts of survival.
Yes.
It's a great analogy. I hadn't thought of it.
We are tribal.
Yes.
And all of us who train know we are as good as our team.
Yes, so true.
That's
Absolutely.
it. Even though the movies often show the Rambo,
the
lone operator.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we all know we are as good as our team and the logistics that support it.
Oh, thank you. So I always joke about that, like amateurs will argue tactics and pros argue logistics. Yeah. That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Hard pill. Which is why the Russian army, the Afghan army on paper should have kicked ass.
Yeah.
But they collapsed.
Yeah.
Because there's no logistics, and at the team level, there's zero motivation.
It's so true. I mean, when you outrun your logistical chain, you're no longer an effective fighting force.
No, yep.
And you just you run out of blood, bullets, and bombs, and then you're toast.
Yep.
Quick word from our sponsor. We've been working with the folks at 1776 for comprehensive insurance of our firearms collections, and I'm really happy with how things are going so far. And one of my concerns is with the amount of commuting that I do with my firearms collection. What happens should my vehicle be broken into or stolen with my firearms? And there's reason to have this concern because there's 800,000 vehicles stolen per year in America. So it's not, it's a little bit more common than we might think. What I mentioned earlier is that they have a comprehensive insurance plan, which is that they will cover your firearms stolen out of your vehicle, or should your vehicle be stolen, cover the firearms that were in the vehicle. So that's pretty reassuring in a sense. So I've mentioned this before, but the process to apply is pretty easy. Approval is pretty quick. They do not require you provide a itemization or serialized numbers. There's no appraisal or schedules that you have to provide. So really all you want to do is just make sure you have proof of ownership, and that's it. So if you want to learn more about the folks from 1776 and insuring your firearms collection, visit 1776insurance.com. Well, let me back up just a little bit because I had a couple questions. Where did you grow up in? You grew up?
I grew up in L.A.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
And
I often say that, okay, I was a child of the late 60s, grew up in the 1970s, came of age in the 80s, and lost my cool the end of the 90s.
I'm about 10 years behind you in that sense. But the 70s and the 80s were pretty cool. They were pretty awesome to be a kid.
In retrospect,
in
right?
retrospect. Yeah, for
we
sure.
romanticize every earlier age.
True.
It's also a thing we humans do.
Yeah.
We glorify the past.
That's true.
And we idolize the future. Hence why you have in politics, you are either trying to make America great again.
Yes.
Or the future utopian hope.
Yes.
That is the political messaging that we are in this postmodern age bombarded with.
Interesting. All right. Well, let me ask you a couple questions
yes.
that kind of go back to the beginning, if you will. What was there a catalyst in your childhood that put you on the path or led to the success that you are at right now?
Yes and no. I could tell you a story where I could choose any one of 5 to 10 events.
Really?
And say this was the turning point.
This was the one,
right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we humans tell our narratives.
Okay.
When really it's a collection of all of them.
I like that.
At the same time, it is one of them. Again, we are breaking through, we are attempting to break through the thinking we have, which we're trapped in the binary, right?
Yes.
But I will just say the brief overview. If we zoom out of this, one could say childhood was the event. Now we are making a singularity event,
okay.
Right? And as we know in mathematics, we are using infinite curves to zoom in, right?
Okay.
So how far do we want to zoom in on this topic?
Totally up to you.
I will just give a few narrative events, right?
I like it.
But growing up, I'm going to start at about 6 years old. I won't go pre-6 because there were some horrid events. But I became a kid who stuttered so bad that there was about a year, 2 years of my life where I could barely talk. I was almost mute.
Wow.
And we humans really are language machines. That's how we interact and communicate. It's almost our most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%.
So even though visually we are the most bombarding thing is what we see, but auditory is our second primary receptor of input.
Yeah.
The stimulus.
Yes.
I'm saying. So what I became was a good observer because I couldn't give my opinion. Which is often now why I talk and you can't shut me the fuck up.
Got ground to make up?
Okay, yeah. But as an observer of my chaotic, dysfunctional childhood in the weird late 60s, 1970s coming of awareness in age period, I guess one would say, kind of like people who are attracted to martial arts are I find often to be some of the coolest, most interesting and diverse group of humans around.
Interesting.
Because most of them have had a quote-unquote inciting event.
Yes.
Otherwise, they would go play soccer or basketball.
Yeah.
Kind of like people who are attracted to the military when it's the post draft conscription, are a certain kind of
there's an interesting
body too.
Yeah.
And it comes from a broad spectrum of reasons and whys and stuff. And that changes as we go through. So the reasons why I started martial arts are not the reasons why I continued, and certainly not the same reasons, almost opposite why I'm still in it.
Interesting.
So that has evolved.
Oh, I love it.
Right?
What do you mean by that, though? Like,
so
break all three of those down.
Because I had primal fear of having other kids kick my ass, and the adult world is not going to help me.
Nope.
And it's that weird thing when you're a kid. There really is the world of children, your peer pressures and all that stuff, and the world of quote-unquote adults. And those two worlds are they exist almost in two parallel universes, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I was a kid that reflecting back on it, one of my nicknames in high school, they would call me Marty McFly.
Really?
Because I couldn't turn down a fight. Call me scared,
Yeah.
and I will prove I'm not scared.
Yes.
All you got to do is, what? You say I'm scared of that?
Yes.
I'll fucking jump off that, or whatever it is, right? So that could either be a recipe for mass trauma or death, which also
True.
will say I'd better train. If I can't turn down a fight, I'd better learn how to.
I like
so
this.
I'm learning classical Japanese karate on the hardwood floor.
Oh, yeah.
Up and down all the katas.
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, my grandfather who boxed, my pops who was a coach in high school sports would always kind of say, that karate's kind of bullshit. But because I'm a kid and I grew up in the movie age, I want this to work so bad.
Oh, I know,
I
right?
want
Yes.
this backspin.
You put
kick
all
to
that
work.
bad stuff behind you. You're like, no,
Yes.
don't say that. Don't say that. Don't ruin it for me.
And the thing that current, I'm going to call them fantasy arts, what they sell is the illusion that you could get in a fight and never get hit
Oh,
or
yeah.
hurt, right? And that's so it's all carrot and no stick.
And it's so frustrating to see how though they're successful though. It's like the infomercial commercials.
Sure.
How are they able to be successful? How is it that somebody can actually believe that you could win a fight without getting hurt, you could train for a fight without getting hurt?
Right. Without exchanging strikes or grabs or throws or locks or strikes.
It's crazy
because
to me.
Reality martial arts, to include the combat sports, which is the bulk of the training of this, is we are in the art of the exchange. And I call it when, I really used to love boxing, but boxing hated me. Right? Because
why did boxing hate you?
You have to get hit in the face, right? But I love the art of boxing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it took me years to realize what I used to have a great old boxing coach who sadly, I can't remember his name other than Hal, who taught out of he was the janitor at a racket club. And he found a corner in which he would teach me and one of my best friends at the time, who sadly now is in prison.
Oh.
And he taught us that this is the art of the exchange, that you've got to get hit to hit.
For sure.
And it's about minimizing. It's a deal. He would explain it. It's a deal. You have to play dice to get money, and you have to put up money but to play, and you'll never win every exchange.
Yes.
And it's
That's
about
a great analogy.
finding that algorithm.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to eat a jab or two, and I'm going to rock a hook, knowing I'm going to get hit to have to hit back.
Yes.
Because if I get out of the way completely, I have
can't
no
hit.
return fire.
Yeah.
Because it's all about setting yourself up for return fire.
So true.
So you're taking
like
rounds.
That. Yeah.
So you can get well-aimed rounds.
I love it. That's
right?
a great analogy too.
So upon realizing that and carrying that into my one and only pro Muay Thai fight, in which I won, but it hurt like shit.
Where did you fight? Where was that fight, in Thailand?
It was in L.A.
Oh, it was in L.A. Okay.
Against a Cambodian guy, I was told, and my trainer had kind of tricked me, making me to believe you're gonna fight some Taekwondo guy, but don't worry about it. And this was when Muay Thai was almost unheard of, right?
For sure.
So I'm expecting, I've got an AR, these guys have muskets. And it's like, no, you're having an AR fight.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but anyways, it was rough. But it was after that that event in which I decided that I am going to pursue college wrestling.
Oh.
Because wrestling was my high school sport. As a kid who fought a lot, I always was a natural grappler.
Okay.
In order to minimize myself being hit in the face, my reaction is to clinch.
Makes sense.
And when I did Muay Thai and I boxed, I'm a clincher. I like to clinch and then hit out of the clinch. I love that feeling of exchange. So what I was more naturally inclined to was what Hickson calls the connection.
Okay, I like
and
this.
when you get in that clinch, you can feel it. And good boxers, really good boxers, who have specifically trained for the environment of the ring, can sense and feel through the wind when the punch is coming. So it's almost like, and they're reading the algorithms of the exchange.
Yeah.
And the best and worst lesson I ever learned, I was sparring a pro in LA. This was years ago at one of the LA gyms. And thank God he spared me because he had read my pattern, and I was in that boxing phase where I'm an advanced amateur, where I look really good when I'm winning.
Yeah.
But I'm falling apart still when I'm losing, right?
Yeah.
I look great on bags and pads.
Yep.
And he rung my bell.
Ooh.
It was one of those hits. And this was a couple months before my one and only pro Muay Thai fight. And for like a week and a half, I was having a hard time reading.
Oof.
Yeah, it rung my fucking bell.
Wow.
Again, that's why I say I love the art of boxing.
Yeah.
But it hates me.
For sure.
It wants my IQ.
Yeah. I like that.
So I go back to wrestling. And when I arrived at the El Camino College wrestling room, I run into Mitch Yamashita, who is the Aikido instructor, who I'm loosely aware of my area's martial arts schools and everything.
Okay.
Because I'm the kid who's always done martial arts.
You know everything.
So
Yeah.
I know, that's the Taekwondo school over there.
Yeah.
That's that Kyoto. That's the Zendo-Ryu fucking school
Nice.
over there, which is a pyramid scheme. That's this one over here. And I'm watching this Aikido instructor show mount escapes. And I'm like, my brain's like, what the fuck? My first thing is, I didn't realize Aikido had this whole grappling component.
Really?
Like, I'm thinking, wow. And I knew Mitz. He was a great guy. He was nice. And he basically, Gracie challenged me. He's like, do you want to try? Because I'm like, Mitz, as a wrestler, we would escape. That's not how I'm going to escape, right? So we try. Yes, I get choked once. I get armbarred once. And I'm like, Mitz, I want to learn this Aikido.
Interesting.
And he's like, this isn't Aikido. This is a specific kind of Jiu Jitsu. And here's the guy who can instruct you. And he wrote down Hori on
No kidding.
Gracie's number.
Oh, my God.
On my homework. And I went home and immediately called it. Within 48 hours, I'm in Horion's garage having a private.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it started.
Interesting. So about what time period was that?
That was 1988.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So one more question about kind of like your early years. Not necessarily early years, but what is it that you try to do for yourself every day?
Oh, well, these days, I try to reflect on in life what I am grateful for.
Love it.
Instead of what I lack. Yes. Instead of what's going wrong with the world.
Yeah.
What's going right and what am I grateful for?
Oh, my God. I love hearing you say that. That means I hope a lot of people can appreciate that, too, because of the value that it brings to, number one, your sanity.
Yes.
Focusing on the good that you have rather than what you don't have or the bad that's around you.
Yes.
I try to tell that to my kids all the time. They're always so quick to just focus on the bad. And I'm trying to give them some, that's...
We are both individually and culturally wired from 60,000 plus years ago to look for threats and what's
absolutely.
bad.
I totally understand why they do it in a sense because it's such a primordial instinct of sorts. And it's really hard to kind of shift that focus over to the positive to help them put it in context.
Yes.
Put it in context. So I love hearing that. And, you know, that's something that I think we as a community, as a larger community, not just the jiu-jitsu community, could benefit from. I find that people that have that sense of gratefulness are also more inclined to live in the now.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Because like currently, most people in here and some people out there in podcast land may at this point want to turn me off. And it's okay.
That's fine. Totally fine.
But politically and ideologically,
okay,
we have a problem of extremism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both right and left.
I agree.
And extremism, populism is born. Populism basically means the politics of resentment.
Okay. Interesting. Politics of resentment.
It's the politics that arises out of resentment. And there
okay,
may
I see what you're saying now. Yeah. I see.
Resentments.
Tax laws come in,
Right.
and then all of a sudden there's a new change to
right.
I gotcha. I'm tracking.
And
okay.
It of course preys on the politics of anger. So
blaming people, putting people to blame.
So like very often, if we go back and in history right now, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. It's not the same song, but it
sounds close.
But
okay,
it's a similar beat.
I'm tracking with you. I like that.
And we humans are pattern recognition machines.
Okay, so that's where I'm. Yes. I'm tracking 100%. Yes.
And you know this through all of your training. What you have realized is what you train are fundamentals and recognizing patterns.
100%.
Right?
It's so true. I get this question a lot. How do I recognize a threat? How do I recognize a threat? And my best answer for people is look for what doesn't belong. Because we are
what's breaking the norm.
Exactly. When I tell the story about I was overseas working in a low profile mode, and I left the embassy and was walking back to my hotel. It was in a really hot environment, so I'm sweating and I'm hungry and grumpy, and there's a little pincho stand up the road, and it's
Colombia.
Well, and it was really busy. I was in like a metro area, so the sidewalk was just packed with people moving. And I kind of move up to this pincho stand. I kind of like shuffle out of the flow of people, and I'm casually drinking my Coke or soda, whatever it was, waiting for him to wrap up the food. And I just happen to glance over my shoulder, and I see this person standing still in the flow of traffic. And I remember I kind of thought to myself, that's odd.
That's odd.
Yeah, that doesn't fit.
Yep.
That's weird. Why? And it started to attract my attention. And as I started to look at him more closely, we lock eyes. And as soon as we lock eyes, he immediately he bolted.
And he's the distraction.
Yeah, totally.
If I can read this pattern.
Yeah.
Because it's not just him.
Probably not.
No,
absolutely.
It's not just him.
What was so funny was that was the first time that I ever realized that as an American overseas, I was being followed and
you're a target.
Being surveyed. Yeah, absolutely. And when I got back to the embassy, like the next day, I talked to the RSO, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that happens all the time. They mark you as soon as you leave the embassy, and they tell you there's a process that everybody goes through, and they're just sizing you up, sizing you up to see what kind of, like, are you going to make for a good mark and all this other business." So tradecraft became really important to me about that point. Real important.
Because they are good at it.
Oh, hell.
Right?
We're amateurs in that sense.
We are amateurs.
Amateurs, man.
They're like some of those overseas street criminals, whether it's sleight of hand tricks, pickpocketing, they
absolutely
are fucking
amazing.
masters of it.
They are.
Yeah, I've been in a few things overseas where I will always say the most frightening 24 hours of my life.
Uh-oh. This is good.
And I've had quite a few. But the absolute pinnacle of it,
I love this,
goes back to high school.
Oh, okay.
I turned 18, and we're at a house a party, and I'm
course.
drunk, and
Oh,
I did
it's getting good.
public intoxication, open container thing, right?
Oh, God.
Because I'm an adult, but I'm not old enough to drink.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which is
man.
also why I joined the Marine Corps, right? Because you can be 18 if you're old enough to kill a man. You're old enough to drink, son.
On post, on
yeah,
base.
on base, right?
So true.
It's like, where do I sign? You don't have to twist my arm anymore. But so to make a short story long, months later, I appear in court.
Uh-oh.
And I ask the judge, well, how much time do I have to pay after he slams down, $40 fine plus book court costs or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm like, Your Honor, how much do I have to pay? And I came into court late because I left school late after lunch, so I was already like the judge wasn't happy.
Oh, yeah.
This is 1982. I'm a white guy, or 83. Yes, 83. I'm a white kid in the new age of the war on drugs and get tough on crime. We can't just throw black guys in jail. We got to throw white guys in jail.
Oh, no.
I found myself in a chain gang to LA County Jail at the height of the Crip Blood gang war.
Holy shit.
And I did not sleep for 3 days.
Oh, shit.
Because I couldn't sleep, because if I slept, it would be
bad. Yeah.
And the LA County policy was any fight, who starts it, doesn't matter. Extra 30 days. So I saw the whole how you get trapped.
Yeah.
And you can't get out.
Yeah.
And I'm Marty McFly.
Of course. Yes.
But here I'm scared shitless.
Oh, man.
Scared shitless.
I bet.
And because in LA County Jail, and ironically, 30 years, 20 years later, as a cop, I remember dropping off an inmate and walking down that hall that I walked through as a high school and giving me the fucking chills.
No shit.
Because how does one go from, I could have easily ended up so many times in life in the morgue or prison.
Wow.
But instead, I got this luxurious, wonderful. Chris Haueter gets to be invited on a podcast and to instruct the Jiu Jitsu, what I love. I have a lovely wife and kids. Like, my life is fucking charmed.
I love hearing that.
So for me to whinge, whine, or complain about anything is the height of absurdity.
Yes.
The height of ego.
Entitlement.
And the height of entitlement.
I love hearing that, man. Good for you. That is awesome. Let me ask you another question. Are you happy with your current self?
No, but not in a self-deprecating victim way.
Okay, good.
Because my current self says, do not remain in stasis.
Yes.
Always be choking. A, B, C.
I love it.
Always be
Always
B,
be
C,
choking.
Always be moving up the chain. Always
love it.
be advancing your position.
I love hearing the ABC. That is I'm remembering that one. That one's going in the book for sure.
Yep.
ABC.
If you are coasting, you're going downhill.
I love hearing that. That's so valuable. Like, we have this theory to help fight fear, move forward.
Yes.
And it's like I try to
loop it.
Yeah, I try to tell this to people, like, it seems like it's the wrong thing to do. It seems like it's counterintuitive to do it, but action bias
breaks you out of paralysis.
Exactly. Yes,
it breaks you out of paralysis.
I love hearing that too. And that's, and I feel like as humans, we have a lot of subtasks in our DNA and our brains and whatnot, but I think one of them is the knowledge gain, always trying to take on more, learn here and there. Like, I feel like if you're not learning, you're dying.
Yes. And I completely agree. And we've proven that with not only the exercising of our arms and legs, right?
Yes.
If you're not working out, it's atrophying.
Yes. It's so true.
Because everything adapts to the environment in which it's in. And the best our will can do is alter the environment. And then the body and mind follow, right?
It's so true. All right. So
I beat that to death.
But the thing I like about it is, like, I cannot be happy with myself without it being doom and gloom. Like, I can see areas that could use improvement.
Yes.
And I can self-reflect and I can recognize that. And, there's plenty, anytime I get on the mat, plenty of areas of improvement, and I look at that as, again, I'm grateful to get that information. I'm grateful to give me guidance on what I need to work on, where I should be focusing my efforts, how I should be planning my future, in a sense.
Yes.
So, because it does, that knowledge gives me direction so that I have an ideal goal in mind.
Now, I will say, as I've aged, I have become lazier.
Ah, interesting. But what do you mean by that?
And so what I do beat myself up over and slightly regret.
Okay.
So Carlos Machado told me when I was a black belt.
Uh-huh.
He said, and I don't remember his exact words, but what I got out of it, and his last line was, don't become a lazy a black belt. Jiu Jitsu makes it too easy.
Oh, interesting. You mean
don't let your body fall apart because the technique makes it to where you don't have to be as physically fit.
For sure.
Especially back in those days, right?
Okay, I like that.
So, again, my model of instruction, I often say, is we think street, we train the sport, we practice the art.
Yes.
How do we impact that? We think street because we can't always train full reality live rounds because you get hurt.
Yeah.
I can't have you eye gouge me and kick me in the groin, right?
Not more than once.
So, but we always want to think that and we put that at the top because it's what keeps it all honest.
I like that.
So think street is the honesty. We train the sports because it's practical. We create parameters to preserve the safety of the athletes or the guys running through your gun course, or whatever it is. We are training.
Yeah, I like that.
And we are training our body, mind, and spirit.
I love that.
And we are training it.
Yeah.
That's that one wing. And we practice the art. And what is the art, you ask? I knew you would.
I would.
The art is, how do I control and submit my opponent? In that order. Utilizing the least amount of athletics and attributes.
Okay.
And the maximum amount of knowledge, leverage, cunningness, and guile.
I like that.
That's the art.
Okay.
What is the sport? The sport is how do I deploy my art within the man-made rules of the game, the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
In the ROI, how do I deploy my art?
Yes.
Utilizing all of my attributes.
Yes.
My athletics, my fitness, all of that.
Yes.
Always under the umbrella of the unknown of the street.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I break this down, if we call street red for blood.
Yeah.
Red.
I like that.
Danger, scary. Boop, boop,
Yep.
boop. Let's call sport blue.
Okay.
Not as regulated. It's not that scary.
Yeah,
It's a little more contained.
Yeah.
But it enables another kind of growth.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
Each of them enable a growth.
Yeah.
And then I call art black and white.
Interesting.
Black and white. That's yin and yang.
I like that.
There's the binary again.
Okay.
So when you mix this, you get what? A purple.
Okay.
And too many people train purple. So they're never really training red. They're never really training blue.
I see what you're
They're
saying.
never observing the black and white.
Okay.
Because they just mix the colors all together.
I see what you're saying. Interesting.
So for me, when I was a new instructor, I realized I got to separate these, especially because as I'm a black belt hitting the second explosion.
Yeah.
At that same time, Jiu Jitsu is rapidly evolving. So we have a primal cat, and now we're evolving from this primal cat into lions, tigers, cheetahs, and panthers.
I love those.
That panther is perfectly evolved to hunt in the jungle.
Yeah.
To maneuver around branches and vines.
Yep.
Camouflage in the jungle, all that. That cheetah is perfectly evolved to hunt in the plains.
Yes.
To get that sprint and that 3-corner turn.
Yeah. I like that.
You put that cheetah in the jungle, it starves.
Yeah.
You put the panther in the plains, it
Starves. I like
So then we're going down this pathway where we are creating and enabling all these things because we remove all strikes out of grappling.
Mm-hmm.
So new algorithms, new techniques evolve, new things that would never have evolved if we're always punch aware.
Yeah.
If we're always, I'm going to punch you in the nuts there, I'm going to punch you in the throat there, it would never evolve.
Yeah, so true.
So
interesting.
This is
I never
what
thought of
allows
that.
growth, right?
Yeah.
We as humans are basically monkeys with language and guns. Right? To quote the great artist Tom Waits.
Okay, I love that.
Right? That's what we are.
Language and guns. I fucking love that. Oh, let me ask you this one then. Okay, so you'd mentioned the laziness, the one regret that you have is laziness. So some of the questions
that's my current last 10-year, 15 of my life is I'll do a couple squats, 3 sets, knowing that is not enough. You see, I know better.
Yeah. So this, I think, ties in well with some of the questions that I got from my peers to kind of pose to you. One of the first questions was, how do you maintain your passion after all these years?
Currently, I see Rickson once a month.
Oh, wow.
And I am one of those very fortunate guys.
Yeah.
Who gets to see Rickson and learn directly from Rickson once a month.
That is amazing.
It is amazing.
That is absolutely amazing.
Because Rickson he has never stopped growing down the path of the art. Some guys get so hung up in the sport. Yeah. Some guys so much in sport that they drift into CrossFit, which is fine. Right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, being a little stronger, a little faster, a little more agile
it's always going to help.
Is going to enhance it, right?
Absolutely.
That's the problem that we often get in the military.
Yeah.
Because we have young guys, we have X amount of time to run you through training.
Yep.
So you better have the fucking genetics and athletics
to
back it up.
It's so true.
Right?
It's so true. Absolutely.
But then as we age in this, right?
Yeah.
Ask any older military grunt or operator, they train smarter, right?
Yes. So
Rickson will help guide me through, and what I basically do is I relearn things I already know.
Oh, that's so cool, though.
Right?
I mean, you're looking at it from a different perspective, I imagine.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Can you give me an example?
I can, but you have to feel it.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Because
yeah.
You can't see it.
I understand I totally get what you're saying there.
I know you do, because picture grabbing a Glock.
Yeah.
If you look at a magazine shot, here's how you hold it.
Yeah, but that's not. There's so many.
Right? There's so many
things.
What do you do with your pinky?
Yes, so true. I love it. Okay, well, all right. So you go to the source to rekindle the passion to keep in the game. I mean, that's like so unique.
Now I will say that Rigan Machado is still an encyclopedia.
Oh, I'm sure.
Of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
and Rigan. What Rigan did, so Bob Anderson, the American Greco-Roman bronze medalist 1976 Olympics, went down to Brazil and taught some Greco. The Americana is named after him.
No shit.
Yes, that's why it's the Americana.
Love it.
And Greco is mastery of the art of the clinch.
Yes. Yes.
The no-cloth clinch.
Oh,
whereas
yeah.
Judo is state-of-the-art of the upper body cloth grip game.
God, I love that.
So just like those primal cats.
Yeah.
Where we
I'm
got
tracking.
an ancestral root and we have different evolutionary trees.
Yeah.
We're going down the branches of evolutionary trees.
Got it. I love that.
The young Rickson, the young Holes, the younger Rigan Machado, a few others get the Greco bug. What is the Greco bug? It's that feeling of base and hips.
Nice.
And I remember when the pressure game really started evolving. And it was when I was a brown belt, new black belt.
Okay.
Now, one could say, and a lot of Brazilians will say, oh, we always had. No, you didn't. No, you fucking didn't. It was the combination now of jiu-jitsu influencing these other arts.
Yeah.
And then these other arts returning the influence.
I love that.
Because we cannot escape our environment.
Yes.
Like I repeat 1,000 times.
Yes.
So the pressure game evolved taking the best elements of Greco.
I like that.
Which is that base, that use of hips.
Yes.
Then the flow of jiu-jitsu. Because it lacked the flow.
Yeah, very.
And judo lacked that flow.
Interesting.
Judo had the calculus of it.
Oh, wow.
And the structure, the framing.
Yes.
Okay? So these three things now, jiu-jitsu guys like the young Hickson and young Hegan start evolving.
Yes.
Because now there isn't a Haleo or a Carlos to say, no, don't do that. So we're allowing individual growth.
I love it.
Yet still preserving
The history.
the old.
Yes.
And that's why I will say, and I say this out there to all of you in this land, balance is the way.
100%.
It's the middle path and finding where the extremes are so you can find the middle.
Absolutely. 100%.
Right? That's how we bring ourselves to that good posture, right?
Yeah.
So when you're shooting, you're feeling your whole body shoot.
Yes.
Not my hands and eyes,
Yes.
right? And it's so instinctive
true.
that everything we do is hands and eyes.
Yes.
We forget that everything comes from our base, our legs, and our hips. There's where it starts, which is why I should squat 3 times a week.
Oh, well, I like that. All right, so the next question that I have
All right.
from the pool of guys was, how do you keep training as long as you have? How do you when you kind of like alluded to laziness, does this tie into this?
It does. So I'm approaching the age of 58.
Whew.
Right? I'm getting up there where I went to the age of 48 without a major knee injury, which
Okay.
is pretty lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew I was lucky.
Yeah.
I knew I was lucky. And then I had a 5-year period of knee injuries. That changed my game. When I turned 50, I remember I met Hickson for lunch, and about a week after that, Hegan came to my garage and was showing these pressure moves on the legs and knees, and my knee couldn't do it. And I was thinking of jumping into a compete one more time, but the wise voice in my head said, You've won the gold a couple times. Leave with the gold.
Yeah.
Don't be the guy who goes back in again and loses with a bad loss and an injury, right?
Oh, that's so true, man. That's a harsh reality.
Then I'm like weighing out in my head, but I really like competing.
Yeah.
But I really hate everything that leads up to the point where we're shaking hands and let's go.
Yeah.
I hate the weight cutting. I hate. I remember once it's like 11 at night. I've got kids. I'm running on the beach after I put my kids to bed. I force myself up. I'm doing sprints up and down on the sand. Right?
Oh, I love that.
Sand and hills and sand
Are beautiful.
Are the fucking test, right?
Yeah, they are.
Anyone with a good pair of shoes can fucking
run on the asphalt or a cork track.
On
Yeah.
flat asphalt.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Give me sand and stairs, right? And because I didn't have a trainer then, I'm training myself. I had to become my own trainer, right? Which we all at one point kind of do. Metaphorically, in the hero's journey, we all at a certain point feel like our coaches, our team, our country, whatever, has abandoned us, and I have to be my own, right?
Yeah.
And we become our own trainer.
Yeah.
In the drama of our minds.
Yes, of course.
Right?
That's so true.
And I'm running on the beach, and I'm like, how do I train myself? I got to trick myself. I have to. So I said, every man-made object, I have to run, sprint, jog, sprint, jog.
Okay.
So every trash can, every lifeguard tower, every volleyball court, it's jog, sprint, jog.
I like it.
So then you watch how your mind will look ahead and say, oh, that's going to be a long sprint in between that lifeguard tower and trash can. So I would catch myself slowing down on my jog and say, "You see, that's cheating."
Oh,
I'm
I like
cheating
it.
Myself,
I
right?
like it.
It's jog, sprint, jog, and until I have passed the line of a 10-minute match or I die.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
I am not going to not sprint.
Yes.
Right? And fuck, did that kick my ass?
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah, it's not easy.
But it got me back in shape. And then in that same period of time, on my off days, I would do legs in the gym, mostly machines, because I don't want to hurt my knees because I'm getting fucking old.
Yep.
And then I hop in the pool. And sprints in the pool.
Yeah.
I get to the edge of the pool. I'm out of breath. I reach up. I grab my hand grippers.
and
And I wade in the pool, holding the grippers.
That's a great idea.
And I count, and I throw them up, and I do another sprint. And then one length is always underwater, no breath.
Oh.
Right? Because it's legs, lungs, and core. All combat sports are legs, lungs, and core.
For sure.
Right?
That's a great way to look at it.
The arms will follow.
Yeah.
And the last part, if you haven't done a competition in a while, your grips always blow out.
Interesting.
Because we naturally cling.
Yeah.
When you compete all the time, you relax.
Yeah.
Because you realize how stupid it is to cling, right?
Oh, yeah. So true. Oh, man, that's a great... Like, I actually, what's funny is... I think I took off, like... I didn't take off. I was traveling for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And I came back, and I have this gym, and I have a gym down south. And on the weekends, it's a kind of an advanced class. Not kind of, it is an advanced class. And I came back for 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And I couldn't figure out why the next day my forearms were smoked. Like my hands, I was like, why? You know, like normally I have pretty decent grip strength from all the other stuff that I do. But man, the next day, and it was, now that I'm thinking about it, it was like I was in survival mode and everything was
That's what we do.
Death grip,
Yes.
clinch, everything. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah. And that is where we go into primal mode.
Yes. Oh, it was totally primal.
We become the monkey clinging onto the tree. I ain't letting fucking go.
No.
One arm pull up.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so funny because after that, I started thinking, oh, well, I guess my grip strength isn't strong enough. I need to start doing stuff to help strengthen my grip. But, that was me trying to solve the problem without understanding the problem.
Yes.
So...
it's really interesting on a note. This was about 10 years ago, 5 years ago. One of the magazines, back when we had those.
Yeah, I know, right?
Before fucking smartphones. They were running around doing a grip strength machine to see out of the grappling world who had the strongest grips.
Oh, cool.
Now, as a guy who grew up in the... a construction world, pre-cordless power tools, a lot in the early days.
Yeah.
It was the electricians who had the strongest grips because of this motion.
Oh my God!
This will fucking doing this all day.
Like imagine a commercial or a residential home. How many sockets
like
you
this
had to do
all fucking day. The next were the plumbers, but for static clean grip.
Yeah.
It was Mason.
Oh yeah, I could easily see that.
From
grabbing the bricks and moving the bricks all day long.
And it was like back in those old days. And when you frame, it's the accuracy of if you hear more than 3 hits on the job, bang, that guy can't fuck.
That guy's not coming back the next day.
You know how to hear tink, pum, pum, tink, pum, pum, tink. Pum, pum.
Yeah.
That guy's putting in fucking nails.
He's doing
right?
the work, yeah.
But yes, so they ran around and this thing, and the quote unquote old man strength, and everyone, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
But ironically, all the older grapplers didn't have as strong of a hold grip, but better grips. In the
practical aspect. That makes a lot of sense.
Because what it is, just kind of like when you have a figure 8 and rope. If you pull it through, the rope slides through. Once you grab a bite, it's stuck, right?
Yeah.
So you learn how to grip and create a bite.
Okay. I hear
So
that.
it's not your hand, your arm clinging.
It's the
You're
mechanical
making-
aspect.
It's the structure and mechanics of the grip.
Interesting.
So what I often call refinement with jiu-jitsu, I call it micro-framing, micro-flowing.
I like that.
You're finding you can refine things even further, just like when you're squeezing a Glock
Yeah.
and finding what I call that wedge
Yeah.
with the base.
Okay.
And I'm finding where I'm going to relax everything and start from a point of relaxation and then build what I need to.
Yes.
Instead of starting from a point of grip, oh, I'm getting tired, release it.
I like that. That
Right?
is a great. Actually,
You're opposite approaching.
I like how that works. Actually, that's super. Like when I think about a new shooter, their natural instinct is to over exaggerate the grip without recruiting the rest of their body to support it. And then what happens is they fatigue quickly and easily. And what ends up happening is their grip compromises to the point where now they start to develop a mental concern about losing control of the gun as it's discharging. And then they have a mental shutdown where they don't want to do anymore.
Yes.
And so when we start kind of like we reverse engineer it, we work really hard with the body position, how body position is the first thing that you learn when we're shooting.
Yep.
You get your body position down, and now your grip is still important, but your grip is only one part
Yes.
of the bigger picture.
A couple years ago, one of my black belts, Alan Shabaro, who will be here today, ex a Green Beret, first a black belt, a Green Beret.
Nice.
You ought to have him on your podcast.
I would love to.
He really helped refine because he's a judo black belt, a jiu-jitsu black belt, and Fort Bragg tier 1 instructor.
Nice.
And really helped that grip body feel part, right?
I love that.
Really feeling all the body, especially movement, right?
Yeah.
Because as you know expertly, which I know, I'm like, I always think like shooting wise, I'm a black belt, but you guys are like world class black belts.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But when I'm around people who fucking think they can shoot but can't, I realize I'm pretty good, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I can give myself a few pats.
Nice.
But like, there really is just like, but jiu-jitsu, you refine it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's so true. And
you get rusty.
Oh, yeah.
You get rusty.
Well, that's the interesting thing, and where I was going with some of this is like, and when I look at myself and I look at my own professional development as a shooter, I take liberties with some things, and I know that my skill set is at a certain level that I can pull off, with no time on the range. I know that I'm going to degrade in my skill to this level. I'm still going to be able to push this type of speed and accuracy. So I'm kind of like riding on my coattails a little bit. I kind of get a little complacent, and that prevents me from getting on the flat range and doing the work that I should do. Because I know comparatively with my peers, I'm still going to be in the top percentage. So I'm it's like, okay.
Yes, that's because we are pack animals.
Yes.
We relate ourselves to the pack.
Yes.
And when we feel like we're in the top tier pack, then that allows the slack.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So like when you talk about like the laziness, I can sympathize with that in a sense, because I'm not saying that I'm lazy. There are times when I don't want to get out of bed, but I feel like sometimes I will pass on certain things because I'll convince myself that there's not a need. I'm good enough.
Right.
I don't need to work on that area, kind of thing. So when you're training, have you adjusted the intensity or the frequency that you train as you've gotten older?
Here's one more trick.
Oh, good.
This is back in my 40s period.
Okay.
Where I'm basically, running my own show, right?
Yeah.
I'm like the guy. I'm coachless. And there was a great line, and I can't remember what boxer said this years ago, but there are very few top athletes who can be their own coach.
Yeah.
Very
so true.
few.
There, it's so 100%.
Hickson's one of them.
Oh, fantastic.
There are very few. They need somebody calling the shots. And in the world of professional boxing, they used to know when a guy was starting the downhill climb, when he would fire his manager and coach and become, and because even though he's hiring a coach, he's really being his own coach.
Gotcha.
I'm going to hire a personal trainer for this. I'm going to hire a guy,
Yeah.
right? You're calling your own shots now.
I see now.
You're playing general when you're supposed to be a team sergeant, right?
Like it.
And now you're playing,
I gotcha.
I know the strategy of this war.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the trap, right?
Interesting.
So what I did was I would give my upper belts, including my wife, what I call a coaching rights. For the next half an hour, you get to coach me. You get to Iron Man me, throw more bodies at me. Even when I go, okay, I think I've had enough. I don't get to be the coach anymore. I don't get to call the shot of when it stops.
I love it.
Because as you know so well, through buds and and anyone out there who's done Marines or any grunt kind of training, whatever it is when you don't call the shots, it makes everything 10 times more tiring.
Oh, God, so true.
When you lead the exercises,
you control the pace.
You're the stud.
Yeah, you control things.
But when you're the guy fucking swinging your legs left and right, and you don't know, are we going to get another set of this or not?
Oh, my God.
It's not up to you, right?
I'll tell you what.
So, you give your students the training rights, and you will get fucking back in shape.
I love hearing that. That is a fucking great one. I do love that. It's funny because I can so relate, not just within the jiu-jitsu world, but in outside of that. Like when we, again, small group, when I go to the range, there's a small group of guys that come with me. Tim is one of them. And we will pass the torch to one of the guys. What are we doing? What are the drills that we're doing? What are we focusing on? And I'll tell you, man, it's one of the areas that I gain the most value from, because I'm not trying to coach myself. I'm not trying to teach myself. I'm not trying to hold, I just have to show up and do the work, show up and put in the effort, show up. And of course there's the competition, try to outshoot. But that's the other beautiful thing about it is that it's that environment drives me to want to be better. I feel the same way when I'm here on the mats. I feel like, okay, I get to be a student. I get to not have any responsibilities. I get to just be a sponge and learn and absorb as much as I can. And
and that's also, I will always say, because sometimes people think I bag on Jeet Kune Do. I don't. Jeet Kune Do has mastered the art of learning.
Interesting.
That's what they have mastered, the art of absorbing what is useful.
Oh, yes.
From
okay.
Dan
Yes.
Santo, right?
Yes.
You have to become a student.
Yeah.
A lifelong student. And Dan Inosanto is a lifelong student.
Yeah.
Right? And as a model, that is a brilliant model, because so many combat athletes stop learning at a phase.
Man, it's true. It's so true. And I don't see it, like, you can see like the newer crop of shooting instructors that are coming up that are much more open to being a learner, being in the learning phase, even though they're extremely capable and very knowledgeable. That's a good sign to me that, the future generation of instructors are getting it.
I got a question.
Go for it.
For you. So, well, I'll just say, I remember, like, it was probably around like 99 or 2000.
Okay.
I remember overhearing like 13-year-old kids rattle off current nomenclature of like current military fucking gear and equipment.
Okay.
And I remember being kind of shocked, like, how do these kids know so much from video games?
Oh, hell yeah.
And I didn't
Call of Duty.
That because obviously a bunch of operators and stuff went and advised the gaming world.
And got their pee-pee smacked as a result of that from the command level.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was an interesting kind of.
It was also that phase, and the GWAT enhanced it, where suddenly the quiet professional became the the pundit on TV.
Don't get me started there. That's a whole man. We can go down a rabbit hole on that one.
know,
That one is frustrating because my
It's a frustrating one.
it was like my my upbringing, if you will,
Yeah.
in the teams was one of which we were the silent professionals. You know, we didn't seek. It was always the adage was it's always the deeds, never the glory. And, you know, that's always been kind of like a driving force in me. And it's also, I will say this, in my industry, it has hurt me because I'm also not very socially adept, you know, on social media. I don't do the things that are successful just because there's still this, there's this,
fucking hate it.
there's this thing that grates on me. I'm like,
it seems stupid and it seems anti.
it's just it goes against a moral fiber that I have, and maybe that moral fiber was was artificially injected into me during my training, during my formative years on active duty. But I can't. It's there, and it affects like things that I've done in the past. Like I remember I refused to join Facebook for like 5-6 years.
I did too.
I just did not want to be a part of it. I felt like it was bad, and
it's a way of just handing the corporations and states of the world all your fucking hit power.
Well, not just that, but I also what I found was my refusal to partake in it also put me behind. So even though my curriculum is still, you know, top percent, it wasn't getting the voice. You know, it's like who's yelling the loudest?
Because we also are community animals.
So true.
That's the whole other
and I get it now. Like back then I was so pissed off. I was like, "Argh." Now I get it. And
I often have a joke when I instruct that there is no magic move.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if there was, I would have found it.
And I would just be doing that.
I would have learned it. I would have won a bunch of shit, realized that I got to feed my family, and I would have sold it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And within 5 years, everybody would have the magic move, mutual assured destruction.
I love
We'd
it.
have world peace.
Yes, I love it.
But there isn't one.
There isn't one. There's just hard work.
There's just hard work,
There's
right?
just hard work.
So, again, going back to our earlier thing, the myth that martial arts often try to sell because we have to earn a living is I'm going to show you a few things that are going to save your life.
Secrets.
Right. When you realize you're going to need 1,500 rounds before you even are familiar, before you're familiar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is great. I like this. This is a good train of thought. Let me ask you this question. This just popped into my head. You know, in my little circle, we track metrics. Both for me in the shooting world, I'm a big collector of data points. Yeah,
collecting data.
Yeah, I got to collect the data so I can speak with more authority.
But the MSS will hack you and get all that data.
Oh man, I'll tell you, they will. Somebody will get it. But you know, and I am I'm starting to do the same thing here in my jiu-jitsu journey, and I track the number of hours that I'm on the mat. And I recently this year started tracking. Well, actually, I backlogged this year, and I just started recently doing it in the summertime, which is tracking the number of rounds that I'm doing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. Just to try to keep a perspective of, because I think it's in those drilling. I love drilling. I love the aspect of that. But my partner is compliant and cooperative, so it's nice to help me form those moves. But I don't get a chance to really appreciate or think of them under pressure until I'm in a combative or competitive role at that point. Yeah. And the learning really, like I learn, okay, I suck at that. I need to work on that. Or, okay, now I can start to figure this out. I guess my question is, if I put you on the spot right now, and you were to guesstimate the number of hours you put on the mat in the heyday and the number of hours you put on the mat now, what do you think those would be? I'm trying to gauge myself here.
Okay, so I would break it down into subcategories.
Okay, go for it.
I would break it down to the numbers I am instructing.
Okay, yeah.
The numbers I am researching or drilling.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then the numbers I am sparring.
Okay.
Right?
I like that.
Because I break everything into 3.
I love doing this. I love this. Okay.
And because that's how you separate stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because we humans, along with being pattern recognition machines, we sort.
Yes, so true.
Right?
That's how we get patterns.
We organize and sort.
That's how we get patterns.
Yeah. So I spend more time now in R&D and less time in sparring.
Yeah. Is that because you're valuing the R&D more, or you're starting to?
This is what I have done very recently. Well, the last 8 years, but increasingly more in the last year. Is I have a rule now that if I roll with any lower belt, I restrict myself. I make myself use the minimum amount of athletics.
Okay.
The minimum.
Okay.
Sometimes to a point where I'm like a sloth. Where I'm going to solve this.
I gotcha. You put yourself in those
Yes.
positions to where now the challenge is.
It's like one of my early lessons in jiu-jitsu, pre-UFC, in the garage days, was being slapped the first couple times by a black belt. I remember Hickson slapping me upside my head.
Really?
And the first realization is I'm not allowed to strike back. Because I have to have a jiu-jitsu solution to a striking problem.
Oh, I like this.
And not a counter-striking solution, a jiu-jitsu answer.
Okay. Okay.
So this model has guided me all the way through. And my current mode of this is I cannot use athletics against a guy who has less knowledge or experience than me. So I have to just rely on experience.
Like it.
And knowledge.
I like it.
And that does get me in a new kind of training mode, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm snipering instead of.
If
that makes sense.
It does.
Right?
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense.
I'm not running around with 500 rounds.
Yeah.
I got one mag.
I got one mag. I'm gonna make the best of it.
Make these fucking.
That totally makes sense. All right, so let's, if we can, flash back to maybe the heyday. What do you think you were doing in the heyday?
Training all the fucking time. I used to say, and I still, whenever I roll with young, lightweightish world champions, which I'm lucky I get to roll with the current crop of some of the world's best. Isaac Oderline, who's the current lightweight or one under that.
Yeah, I don't think I know him.
World champion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I get to roll with him. And then I get to roll with Hickson, right?
Oh my goodness!
I get to experience state of the art new school, state of the art old school.
Oh God!
Gordon Ryan is clearly right now the pinnacle of no-gi submission grappling, right? But so I'm staying attuned so I know my place, because one of the good things about combat sports, is you know where you stand.
Absolutely.
And as soon as you start deluding yourself, that's when you get in trouble.
100%. It's so funny because
you have to stay with your peers, right?
I you know what's interesting is like that is a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Really hard.
Because ego and pride are they are constantly at odds against that. They're always trying to tell you that you can do more, you can do better, you can hold your own kind of thing. And I feel like what jiu-jitsu has done for a lot of people, and I learned this in the early stages of my naval career when combatives was a very important part, was it helps you to understand the realities.
Yes.
And it'll show you the realities. Whether or not you want to accept them or not is up to you.
Yes.
And that to me was like, I learned that lesson early on. I'm a smaller guy. I didn't have a choice.
Yep.
If I walk into a room as an assaulter,
grab a pugil stick.
Yeah. If
I
I
get that fucking college football player.
Yeah. Right? If I walk in, if I enter a room as an assaulter and there's a 300-pound dude there, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I have to, and so like it really taught me.
Or to drag him out.
Yeah.
He's your team member.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
So many things. So much punishment.
When I was on the range with Alan Bushabaro, heavyweight tier 1 operator, and I'm like going, fuck it. What if I had to drag him out, right? And I remember my hardest thing in the police academy, I could max everything, right? I was the oldest guy, the PT stud, right?
Yeah.
but the fucking 180-pound body drag.
Oh,
right?
yeah, the dead weight, the
I'm
dead
a lightweight.
Yeah.
Running that
The
fucking thing.
worst.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll
I hate
never
that.
forget this.
Fuck, I hate that.
His name was Kerry Kolbiaz, and he was one of our 60 gunners. And my first platoon, I was the new guy, and I was wiry back then. I'm still wiry now, but back then it was even worse.
And you're full of energy.
Oh my God. And
more energy than mass.
Yes.
We used to call it. Yep.
I can remember to earn my keep amongst them, I had to, in the simulated down man drills, I had to carry him with all his gear. And the only break I got was somebody took the 60. So I didn't have to carry that. I just had to take him, carry with all his shit.
God.
And Kerry was like a collegiate football player. Big, just big dude. And I can remember, I tell people, I joke about this. Yeah, I was 6 feet tall at one point. And then carrying Kerry, like my spine just, because we had all our gear on. We'd be at the pull-up bar and we'd have to do these laps with him as my partner for the down man drill. So like that was an interesting, I remember that was my indoctrination into being a teammate. Like, yeah, because and the whole reason why, well, if we get in the shit, we need to know that you can not just hold your own, but carry us if we had to. So that was impacting as a young frogman. I was like, oh, I can never let my teammates down. So that became like a driving force in me. All right, let me ask you this.
I'll just say this.
Go ahead.
So like 3 years ago, I went and gave a speech and then instructed Marines at Stumps, right? And fuck. Afterwards, they go do these fucking track runs of, rucks and ammo crates and all that, right? And I fucking pick up one of those rucks, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I wouldn't last, right? I'm too old. I couldn't do that anymore. I forgot how heavy a ruck was,
right? Oh, my God. There was a time, like when I left the Navy, I was still working overseas doing that gig, and I can't remember what time period it was, but I think I was maybe in my early 40s. So I'm in my mid 50s now, and I was in my early 40s when I put on, full everything, and I was like, holy shit! And it dawned on me, I'm not going to be able to do this at this level. For much longer. It was a
I know
hard.
That phase,
it was a very hard. Like when that happened, like I want to say almost a little part of my soul died a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, that's who I am. That's what I know. And I've obviously adapted and found other ways to make that to not to push it further, but just to accept it and find myself try to find other ways of being useful.
I could always max in the 18-year-old group a Marine Corps PFT or Army PT test.
Yeah.
Until I was 38. Oof. And then suddenly when I couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then like I can't run 2 miles and under 12 anymore. Fuck that.
No, that's not happening. I just I'm lucky if I could just run a mile in 8 minutes these days.
I mean, even now, like I used to be a pull-up machine, right?
Yeah.
And a sit-up machine. I was
yeah.
Until you say time, my body's
just
moving,
going.
Fuck. Like I had frozen shoulder,
and
then
dude,
I could do 3 pull-ups now.
I am
because of my fucking arm and lat, right?
I think the one thing that I have going for me is that I have good genetics, and I thank my parents for that. But I also have, I would say a Cro-Magnon brain that just does not understand things like it should. Jeff, you probably shouldn't do that because that's going to probably leave a mark. What? What? Too late.
It's okay if it leaves it later.
Yes, just let me get through this.
Because I got to get through this next.
Yes, exactly. So true.
I know the mindset.
So this is a great way. One of my other questions is, how do you deal with failure?
Well, I mean, anyone who's a parent gets a lot of training
for sure
in failure to keep my patience,
my
temper, failure to foresee something that would seemingly be so foreseeable.
Oh my God. So true. God. So how have you coped with failures then?
Oh geez. Well, kind of like we were just never let it. It's only over when it's over.
Okay, I like that.
So
it's never too late.
Either I'm dead or I'm in heaven. and then it's over.
Fair enough.
So it's never over until it's over.
Okay.
And if you and I are still here talking,
Yeah.
it means it's not over.
Fair
so
enough.
there is no failure.
Okay. I like that.
There's only learning experiences. Move on, drive on.
Okay.
Right?
So
That's one way.
I like that way.
One outlook, right?
I like that one.
As an overarching outlook.
Yeah. But it's also valuable in the sense that for guys like us that have that drive, failure can be debilitating.
Yes.
If you can't find it, if you can't restructure it in a positive way.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've tried to tell my students, even myself at times, is that, I want to fail quickly and fail often.
Yes.
And learn, what did I learn? That's what
that's the training thing. Let's fail in here so we don't fail out there.
Absolutely.
Model, right?
And that's one of the things that I really find valuable about jiu-jitsu is that you get a chance to fail
every time.
Every time. And
even Hickson, as he's aged, gets to fail, right?
Yes. And it's humbling.
But Gordon Ryan will
at some point
will start losing.
And I find that being able to shift the mindset from that failure, like you just did. You shifted it in a sense that you didn't want to look at failure from a negative, but I still have an opportunity now to do something about it.
Yeah.
And to me, like I had a hard pill. That was another hard pill to swallow too. I hated failing at anything because I always looked at it as a negative, but it also stunted my growth.
Yeah.
It also prevented me from growing and learning. So now,
because and let me add, just because I know you enough, but to know, even just knowing your background, that you are going to physically persevere and mentally push through anything until it kills you.
Absolutely.
Or you die trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that mindset is so youthful.
Yeah. It's so youthful.
Right.
And you have to acknowledge it. You have to
acknowledge it. I often say, and I the other month I made this comment joke, but to Hickson.
Yeah.
I say, Hickson, how there's the old lion walking around. You could tell it has a bad back, scars, and a limp.
Yeah.
Why haven't the young ones kicked his ass yet?
Yeah.
Because they know he's lasted.
Yeah.
And they know he's got
one more left in it. One more. That's it.
One more.
That's it.
Where I'm going to pull it off like I'm 19.
Yes. And that's the funny thing about it is like I tell that to everybody. Like, no matter where
but I don't want to waste that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's what I tell them. I'm like, hey, listen, you can pump your chest up. You can get all kind of like, but just realize that if, we are all going to have that one last one, and you want to make it worth it. Like that's one of the reasons that, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie called Secondhand Lions, but as the kids get a little bit older, it's a great movie to watch with them because there's the lion that has that one last.
I gotta see that.
Yes, it's got that one last fight in it, and it and it does. So I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's a great movie. You'll dig it. That's another story altogether. All right, so let's start wrapping it up. I got one last question for you. What takeaway do you want our listeners to learn from this show?
Seek balance, which is not the same as base.
Okay.
And it took me a while to figure that out. And mentally explore the extremes to find the middle.
Oh, God, that is so good. Oh, my God, that is going to be so good.
And that's true within everything.
Everything.
Philosophically, ideologically, practically on the mat, all these things. Because it really is that wisdom of the Tao and the Buddha, the middle way.
Yes. God, I love that.
But you can't know the middle if you don't know the guardrails.
It's so true. And it's so funny because I say that all the time. You got to know your left and right limits. Once you know those left and right limits, stay in the middle.
Yeah.
I love this. All right. Well, where can people learn more about...
Oh, yeah. I always forget this, and my wife would kill me.
Oh, no. We don't want that.
No. Yeah. And my wife is a tough 13-year younger than me, third-degree black belt.
Whoa. So you got your hands full. So definitely want to make sure that we do not...
And in COVID, while I'm watching screens and eating ice cream, she's working out the whole time. Yeah. She's much smarter than me.
Well... I did a little bit of both. I learned, it was an uphill battle, kind of like one of these things. Yeah.
Ebbs and starts.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, but combatbase.com.
Love it.
I'll say it 3 times. Combatbase.com.
Yes.
go to and sign up to the Combat Base YouTube channel.
Okay.
Because if you just put in Combat Base, you'll even find me instructing, but they're not my channel.
Ooh.
So try to go to Chris Haueter's Combat Base channel.
Okay.
Hit like and subscribe.
Yep.
Turn off your notifications, and you'll never know, but you'll help me in the algorithm.
I love hearing that, and it's true. That's what we were talking about. We gotta start playing the game.
I hate
we gotta
sewing
play
this
the
like
game.
this.
It's like a little part of me is
I
also
know,
like,
it feels like so millennial
selling
Gen
myself.
Z, right? Hit like and subscribe.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Like, shut the fuck up, right? Shut the fuck up.
What about social media? Instagram, Facebook.
Instagram, Chris Haueter Art. Facebook, I don't know what they are. Just put my name. I don't monitor it.
We'll make sure that we get it from you,
Yeah.
and we'll put it in the show notes so that folks can just click on it in the night.
Social media, like everything, is a blessing and a curse. I
Oh,
think
without a doubt.
we're in the curse phase of it now.
Yeah, the blessing was short-lived.
The blessing was short-lived. Arab Spring, it's going to usher democracy in the world. Look what the smartphone has done.
Oh my God, I have this conversation with my kids all the time.
God,
all right,
no.
all right, folks. Well, folks, that's a wrap. I want to thank you, Chris, for coming on and sharing your knowledge. It has been an honor to sit here and
Honor
talk
to
to
be
you.
with you.
Oh man,
Absolute honor.
I'm on a high right now. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors and our support. I want to thank the men and women who are holding the line. Check out all our previous podcasts by visiting bulletproofworkshop.com. Learn more about me and training opportunities by visiting tridentconcepts.com. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, and you're listening to the Bulletproof Podcast. Take care and stay safe.